Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall drywall repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
James, good morning to you.
Good morning. Got another exciting show today.
Unique.
Yeah.
We don't very often get to talk to anybody in the food service. I don't think we've had anyone on the podcast in, nearly 140 episodes that talked food service at all.
Well, it's funny is most of the people that we talk to that they do franchise, they don't have a brick and mortar at all. So being able to talk to somebody who's kind of gone through a completely different side of franchising than we have is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And our buddies over at FMS have kind of put us on to Christian Touzet. Christian, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Christian is one of the owners of the Point Pub and Grill. Is that right? You are one of the owners?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm one of the majority owners at the Point Pub and Grill.
The Point Pub and Grill. And you guys are based out of Oregon, right?
Yep.
Different time zone than here in Orlando, Southern Oregon. Fabulous. And so I'm real curious to kind of talk about, the concept of the Point Pub and Grill. What kind of establishment is it? What successes you've had? And let's talk about how you decided to even get into franchising. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Christian.
Yeah, thank you. So the concept is to be your neighborhood's best pub and grill. So, think of that place that you go after work. Maybe you meet your wife, maybe you take your dog down and you walk in, they know your name, they pour your beer before you even sit down at the bar or at your table.
Norm.
Yeah. And so that's essentially us. The concept is like old world pub. So, exposed brick, kind of more comfortable lighting. And I wouldn't say like an industrial feel, but kind of that old world industrial feel. We really started franchising early 2023. And, like many before us, we kind of got into it because we wanted to experience growth outside of our key territory, outside of what we could really accomplish ourselves. So, we knew that finding good, qualified, like-minded people to expand the business would really be a win-win. And one of our, core tenets, I guess you could say, for our company was really perpetual growth. And so in order to achieve that and kind of stay true to ourselves and what we wanted to accomplish, we needed to branch out, and franchising is a great option for that.
Yeah. How long had you all been in business there before you decided to franchise?
We started November 1st of 2013. So we've been open quite a while. We're going on our 13th year now.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a great ride. We opened up our second location in, I believe, 2015, early 2016. And then, from there, we kind of looked at other spots and really, like I said, kind of ran into that issue of not being able to expand more in our corporate territories.
So I'm curious, is your clientele sort of what you hoped for, like the person looking for that neighborhood bar where their name and they come in and, they feel comfortable, what they probably want to order? Are you finding that to be the case?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our candidates and, our current franchisees, of course, are really in alignment with that. And we've got a unique model, especially from an operations standpoint, in that, we're really applicable to multi-unit managements or more silent investor opportunities. And so as long as we find alignment with either the franchisee or the franchise management team, the operators that they hire, then, we've had great success so far.
So when building out your brand, obviously, you guys got a good look, right? I mean, just the nice, the raw brick, the home feel, very comfortable.
Yeah, it really does have a warmth, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. But obviously, you serve food and booze, right? Drink. So how do you guys go about planning, like, your menu? I mean, do you have a head chef, a gastronomer? Do you have somebody that's there to kind of help you dial that in?
Yeah. We have more of an open format for it. So within our group, we meet weekly, right? And we use a couple of like cutting edge data tools in order to get information on menu trends and basically what's popular, what's going to be popular, what might be dying, so to speak. And we kind of just have open dialogue on it. We all like to travel too, and so that's been really helpful to be able to, visit different places in the US or in the world and kind of see what other people are doing. But as far as tools, we've got a really dialed in menu analysis, recipe analysis software that helps make sure all of our costs are in alignment for profitability and like price deviations with contracts. And then we just kind of bounce ideas around in a real casual way, always with the idea of like, what what is it that most families need? What is it that our clientele wants? And how do we be inclusive?
So how often would a menu item kind of drop off and maybe a new one pop up?
I would say on our special sheets, we do chef specials. And so we use those to kind of test menu items before they make it to the real menu, the corporate menu. And we change that every 2 weeks. If it's a really good one, sometimes we'll keep it around for a month and we'll have the winners on those around for, maybe a season that will repeat. So, sometimes they don't even make it a week or two. Sometimes, they're around for 6, 8 months before they go on to our main menu.
Yeah. And so you would consider yourselves more than just pub food, but more of an elevated style.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always like to tell people that like it's food that you recognize, but also the quality is supposed to be better than what like a fancy home chef could achieve on their own at home.
Right.
So approachable.
So if someone was interested in acquiring, being awarded a franchise from the point, what are some considerations that we would need to think about? Location, staffing. I mean, what are some of the things that you would help us kind of work through?
Yeah. So I think that a lot of franchises in our space take a little bit of like a hands off approach, or at least that's what I've seen. And we're really hands on. So as far as like what we help you with, we walk you through the whole process. I sit in on most of the interviews with my franchisees for any sort of management role. We have software that assesses the square footage to identify your staffing needs based on your service model. We even offer different styles of service models for your particular type of location, depending on the location or square footage. So, I mean, surface level, we walk you through the whole process, but we assist you with finding your location. That's always, people's main concerns. Is how do I find a spot that's successful? And we've got partnerships for that and software and data that helps find those key spaces and then negotiate them. We help you, like I said, assess your staff. And then when it comes to like getting software and everything like that for operations, a lot of it is a little bit of a copy and paste. So we, transfer our corporate data onto your profile, and then suddenly you have hundreds of recipes,
Right.
sometimes, thousands of recipes even
You
for
you
everything
touched
you
on
need.
it briefly, but could you expand a little bit on how each restaurant might not be an exact copy of another one? Like maybe their
Yeah.
space is a different size or they have a little bit different clientele. What would that look like? What kind of variation would there be?
So, I mean, the easiest way to describe that is like you're in Florida. I'm here in Oregon. We're on different sides of the coast, right? And Florida is really beautiful, but the architecture is different. There's different cultural vibes or influences where you're at. Eating patterns or preferences are completely different. So we want to recognize that because ultimately neighborhoods are different everywhere in the US, everywhere in the world. And to be your neighborhood pub, it really means having the flexibility to embrace that. So for us, like our model, as far as what we quote on our FDD is, 2,200 square feet to 3,200 square feet. So there's a huge range there. But my corporate location, my headquarters is 7,200 square feet.
Oh my.
And I do private events, I do on-site, off-site catering. We do a lot of stuff there. So when we look for locations, they can be, all different sizes. And so we want to have services that act as like a Swiss Army knife. So if you guys wanted to start your own pub over there and you found the best location in your neighborhood and it was only, 2,000 square feet or 1,800 square feet, well, we'd like pull out that Swiss Army knife and say, this spot would shine with a limited service model.
Yeah.
So let's go to QR menus, let's go to kiosks for self-ordering and self-paying, and just kind of pull out those tools to address the unique needs within your model to make it that neighborhood pub.
And would there, specifically, you were saying between Oregon and Florida, would there be a variation of the menu, or is that standard throughout your franchise system?
So the menu is standard on the corporate side, and that's how we negotiate our prices, our economies of scale. And then each location has 100% freedom of their specials that they choose. And those could be changed daily, weekly, monthly. Typically, there are about 7 options on it. And, you can do whatever you want with those.
Is a full bar required, or do you have just beer and wine options?
We look for a full bar, just because of the way the profitability for restaurants in general work. You're losing a lot when you don't have liquor. But I think that depending on the locale, for example, like Utah, where we're expanding right now, is a little bit more difficult on a national scale for alcohol service. So we're going to do a full bar there, but maybe somewhere similar we wouldn't. So again, it's just more about the flexibility to address the needs of that local community and giving franchisees the room to innovate and succeed.
Yeah. I know in Orlando that it's not like a lottery system. So you want to try and get your full liquor license. It's not easy, and it's, a beer and wine license can cost you, $1,300, but it'll cost you $150,000 for a liquor license, right? So I know there's challenges each location, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And luckily for us, our model, we purposefully shy away from high cost areas like that because they're so competitive and you have to invest so much money to be applicable in those areas. And so it doesn't really kind of play out well for us. So we really look for areas around like residential zones, suburbs, master plan communities where we can get in and be that neighborhood pub. And in my experience, most places throughout the US, they have a little bit more leniency on liquor laws in those scenarios, right?
Yeah, that's cool, because it seems like you're not trying to be a big brand chain, right? You want to almost feel like a local pub in your community without the feel of, a Chili's or one of those national brands, right?
Yeah, exactly. You really nailed it, actually. We want to be a big brand, right? We want to grow, but we don't want to lose that human factor that got us here, that will get us there. Because, personally, I still think that like business is done face to face. There's still a certain level of like handshaking that needs to happen, especially for our concept. And so if we can kind of slide into these locations and have the backing and the resources of a large corporate brand, but still stay true to that fact that like, small business and business in general is still hyper local. It's still about supporting your neighbors and your friends and your family, right?
Yeah.
So I hate to keep talking about food, but I'm a foodie, so I like to talk about food. Curious, because I've got a son who's a vegan. When we host people here for Hole in the Wall, we have all kinds of different food allergies and stuff. I mean, how do you guys deal with that situation? Are you sensitive to those things?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, the way that I typically describe it when people bring up, this thing is that like, I have a very typical American family in that I have celiacs, so I can't eat gluten, right? My brother is a vegan, and my mom, when she hangs out, she might just have a glass of wine. My wife and I just had our first kid, so she's not drinking, right? And think of a place that you can go and have all those things where everybody's happy. And it's actually really difficult. So that was where we wanted to be. That's who we wanted to be, was just a place where anybody can go and find anything that they like. And we have to be very sensitive to those allergies, like you said. So, we're very compliant with gluten-free procedures for cross-contamination and everything like that. And then we have a huge vegan section where, I think on our menu, there's like 8 items that are vegan, but gosh, probably 2/3 of the entire menu could be modified to be either vegan or gluten-free.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair. And for years, we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level, growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today.
So when you guys are looking for potential franchise candidates, what does a really good candidate look like for you?
Somebody who is, obviously like financially qualified. For us, we work really closely with the SBA. And so, if somebody's qualified with experience, then we can typically get them financing through the SBA where they're less maybe financially qualified, right? It's a great resource. But really, somebody that has the drive to succeed, somebody that's community oriented, some sort of experience is really great, but it's not necessarily required. Ideally, somebody that's business minded and has experience in leadership.
So software wise, I'm assuming that the POS system, your point of sale system, is standard across all your locations, correct?
Yeah, it has to be. And really, like all of our software would be standard. We're very tech forward. So we do what's called like a single line integration formula where all of our tech options need to play into each other. So you don't spend a lot of time doing multiple data entry points. So when you put in an employee for hire, like that's going to automatically go to payroll, training, et cetera, down the pipeline to make it more efficient.
So tell us a little bit about the startup process. You get awarded a franchise, you have a location. As far as the build out goes, do you guys help with the build out, or you just provide designs, or do you have your architects involved from the very beginning?
A little bit of both. So because it's more of an organic process, all these, we're open for first generation, second generation, ground up construction. Re-restauranting is something that's really unique. Not a lot of people in the franchise world do. So we are very hands-on. We provide standardized equipment lists. Our equipment provider that we partner with, they can provide, what's called an MEP, which is a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing plan. And then we present that to contractors who we help franchisees source. One of my partners in a location that we're developing locally for, ourselves is a contractor. He's done, I think, 3 restaurants for us now. And so he provides consulting for franchisees on the model. He flies down to their locations and meets their potential contractors to have like real firsthand interactions with those contractors to make sure they know what they're doing. So like I said, really hands-on. Short though, we help you find locations, we help you get equipment, we help you get your bids, we help with that build out from an advisory capacity. And then we also assist with like business and licensing and everything, really.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've got a couple of friends of ours who have purchased like a dry bar, and one bought a Wolfgang Bakery, and the build up process was extremely different between those two concepts. One took almost a year to do the full build out, and one just only took a few months. Are you seeing a trend on, because I know it just varies based on the location and materials and stuff, but what on average, how long does it usually take to light up from signing the agreement to, getting launched? What's that usually, what should we expect?
Yeah. So like, there's always answers that I'm required to say, and then like there's flexibility there. So like on our franchise disclosure documents, we say 6 to 9 months as a standard, right? From the day that you sign the papers to the day that you open. There's a ton of flexibility in there depending on the unique space. So if it's a build to suit with some sort of partnership with an investment group or a contractor, that can take, a year or more very easily. I've done them in as little as 6 weeks, and it's, very stressful. So I don't like doing that. But 6 to 9 months is really the easiest bet between A to Z.
Nice. And do you find people want to have multiple locations, or are they just starting with one and growing?
A lot of people start with one, but I think that it really does play into multi-locations as a encouraging factor of it, if that makes sense. Our franchise royalty structure is really competitive in that it's like a de-escalating scale, and we incentivize people to have higher gross sales. So the more you gross, actually, the less that you pay in royalties. So when you have like systems like we do, and then incentives like that, it does encourage people to do multi-locations.
Well, tell us a little bit about the training. So once you get close to being able to open, obviously you have that training for the owner to learn how to run the business, or whoever the general manager is going to be, if it's more of a semi-absentee sisterhood situation. What does that look like? And then how do you get the employees, the guys back of house and the people front of house dialed in for training?
Yeah. So, we've got like a three-step process. The first step always starts with our online academy. So we have an online learning center, and right now we've got at least 40 hours of online training that covers each and every single position. Then it has videos and games and tests and a data library. So you can look back on all those materials. So that's provided for the franchisee free of charge, and they can put their entire staff through that. It's encouraged that they do. So that brings, the general staff up to speed, typically within like 60 to 75% efficiency. And then the rest is, hands-on mentor-based training that we're all familiar with. The franchisor goes through that, or the franchisee, I'm sorry, goes through that. And then we also train them on site at our corporate location for anywhere between 10 to 12 days. So it's pretty intensive, and we cover each and every position. And then my team also goes out to their location for their grand opening, typically a week, but we've done as many as 2 weeks before, 15 days on site for a franchise location to just make sure they're, up and ready and good to go.
Yeah, really nice. So in the FDD, have you had a chance to get your item 19 dialed in? Are you using any franchise or other locations data? Or are you still using your headquarter data?
We're using our headquarter data. Yeah,
Yeah.
just as an emerging brand, we haven't had our franchise be opened long enough to be able to use his data.
Yeah.
So once, we grow and see those unit economics come in, then of course we'll expand to just having, franchisee data there.
Yeah. And we're doing similar because obviously we don't, none of our locations have been open long enough to be validated for a full year or more for the FDD.
Yeah.
And I really think it's wise. I've seen other brands that just kind of skip out on the item 19 section. And you have a proven model in your location. Why wouldn't you want to use your success to help people decide whether they want to pursue you or not? So that's a very good, in my opinion, that's a good option for you. So
No, I agree completely. I always wonder, I don't think that it's valid to say, but I always wonder, what is it that people are hiding when they don't do it?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we have FDDs, because it's supposed to be some sort of standard, right? So none of us are pulling the wool over anyone's eyes.
Yeah.
Well, Christian, tell me a little bit more. Is there anything else that we haven't covered yet? I want to make sure we get to anything that we just haven't missed yet, because obviously you're there. You know so much more about your location than we do. So I just want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Gosh, like I think that we all could sit and talk about our brand for hours and hours and hours. I don't think that you get to the position that we're in, that you're in yourself, that we're in here, and not be passionate about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a trick question, maybe, because I don't know that I want to take hours and hours of your time.
Well,
But
we don't mind too much. I mean, like as far as the bar goes, as far as your location, I mean, do you have like darts or pool tables, or is there interaction things like that as well, or is it just? I mean, do you have a very large bar, or is it more tables than bar?
yeah, it's I would say it's a mix for sure. We try really hard to create space within our locations for each sort of activity, that really is kind of tailored to the target clientele. So we have a fairly large bar. I think our smallest bar is 8 seats. So it's not huge by any means, but it's a rather small location. Our largest bar, I think, is 21 seats. And within each space, we want to have general dining, bar dining, casual kind of couch area where if you're just having a meeting or just a cocktail, or maybe you're with the kids, you can sit on the couches. We have games there. And then we have patio space outside as well, typically. So, out on the patio, we'll have typical tables, umbrellas, all that fun stuff. And then things like maybe Connect Four or cornhole games or something like that to really make it comfortable and give the kids something to do.
So when you started your first location, did you have all of that already in mind? And did you kind of launch with that, or have you sort of added to what you launched with to get all of that in place?
Yeah, I think that it's actually kind of gone. I don't know if the bell curve is the right way to put it, but we started with some things and then we stopped. And then we've slowly started to bring it back as, dining trends change. So yeah, I think that we're always adapting. We're always adding things and taking away too to stay current with trends. But for the most part, yeah, we've always had casual couch seating and dining seating and bar seating for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it sounds like a fascinating concept, and it sounds like a place I would want to go to myself. I need to get some of these, get a couple locations here in Orlando. So
yeah, you're here.
Go and
love that.
Indulge. That'd be awesome. So any of my Orlando peeps out there looking for a nice brick and mortar restaurant, let's get Christian on the line with you. See if we can get you dialed in. Well, Christian, I tell you what, I really enjoy talking franchising, but I really enjoy just talking to business owners who have a passion for what they're doing, right? So being able to take something from the ground up, to build it from the ground up. Are you one of the original owners?
I am and I am not, in that one of my partners is one of the founders. And I actually started on as a corporate trainer, I guess you could say, in that he and I had worked together for, I think, 4 or 5 years previously in a different concept. And then he spun off and started this. And I came on to just kind of train his staff. And I was really upfront at the beginning in that I wanted to start my own concept in a number of years. And so I just wanted the experience that, his new startup could provide. And I think that I was offered an ownership position 2 years after I hopped on board. So I was the second employee that they'd ever hired, and became a partner 2 years later.
Yeah. So you've been around from the beginning, basically, then.
Yeah, but not as an owner. So I don't know if that's good or bad. It doesn't matter, actually. But, definitely one of those like working my way up sort of stories.
Absolutely. It's inspiring.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, very cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on. And just if people want more information, tell my listeners kind of the best way to get hold of you or the point for franchising.
Best way is just, put in an online inquiry. So you can find us at lovemypoint.com. And we've got a number of contact pages that you can just throw one in there. They all go to me and my team. You can hit us up on Facebook too, or, Instagram. You can find us, by searching The Point Pub and Grill. And then if you have questions about franchising, it's just franchise@lovemypoint.com as well.
Fantastic. Well, Christian, thank you for coming on. Thanks for sharing us about your brand and how successful.
Yeah, it's a great concept.
Future
Thanks
plans.
for having me.
I love seeing that you're going into Utah, and let's see if we can branch you out around the country. So thanks so much for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate your guys' time. It's always, a great conversation.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for listening.
We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.